Blood drips down Naruto's shocked face, and the Byakugan he is staring at belongs to a dead man. This makes absolutely no sense. The war hero turned to dust right in his arms, and now he is breathing. He is breathing and he wants to kill Hinata. You blink and you try to wrap your head around this absolute madness. The sworn protector is now the ultimate hunter. But hold on, because you need to roll back the tape with me to understand everything. You won't believe how Toneri pulled off this unacceptable abomination. His plan wasn't just to steal the pure heiress of the White Eye. He wanted to destroy the sanity of Asura's heir from the inside out. And he did it by weaponizing the Leaf Village's deepest pain. It all started a few hours before the direct attack when the infiltration team invaded the enemy's floating castle. They thought Toneri was just manipulating the lunar chakra, but he was breaking the very laws of life and death. The villain visited the old battlefield of the war, and he stole the sacred Dina of the greatest genius of the Hyuga family. He used a profane puppet control technique, and he fused the cold flesh with the dark energy of the castle. You realize that the honorable sacrifice was trampled and corrupted by a sick and relentless greed. The team advances through the dark corridors, and Naruto feels a very familiar yet totally corrupted and dark chakra. He stops immediately and his heart freezes. Because that divine energy signature should be impossible, he runs frantically ahead of all his allies, and he shatters the main door of the sanctuary with a thunderous punch. The dust settles slowly, and the sight makes the greatest hero of the ninja world drop to his knees on the cold stone floor. You feel the weight of this cruel impact, because the most painful past has returned to haunt our protagonist without any mercy. Right there in the center of the Great Hall is a figure floating in pure black chakra and wearing white ceremonial robes. The curse mark on his forehead has completely vanished, and his skin is now pale and cold like death itself. He suddenly opens his eyes and the veins pop on his face, but the color of his Byakugan is a terrifying purple. Naruto tries to scream his friend's name, but the voice dies in his throat, and absolute panic takes over his mind. The tension rises rapidly, and you are sure that at any second true hell is going to be unleashed in that crystal castle. Toneri emerges from the shadows of the hall laughing out loud, and he reveals that the genius's mind was completely obliterated and rewritten from absolute zero. Neji has no warm memories and he has no compassion, but he possesses all that formidable talent elevated to infinity. The antagonist slowly raises his hand, and he gives the most wicked order you can imagine at such a critical moment. He commands the human puppet to rip out Naruto's heart and destroy the hope of the main heiress forever. Fury boils intensely in the Uzumaki's blood, and Kurama roars fiercely inside him, demanding total and immediate retaliation. The shock of reality hits incredibly hard, and Naruto refuses to enter Kurama mode because he rejects hurting his old comrade in arms. He tries to focus only on a peaceful defense, but Neji attacks with an insane speed that breaks the sound barrier in the blink of an eye. The perfect strike of the gentle fist pierces through the protagonist's desperate guard and hits a vital spot with a devastating and brutal force. Naruto spits a lot of blood on the ground, and he is thrown against the thick wall of the temple with a deafening thud that shakes the entire environment. You understand the extreme gravity of the situation, because the hero is very close to dying at the exact hands of the one he swore to avenge one day. Hinata finally comes running into the hall, and she freezes in pure terror seeing her beloved cousin acting like a bloodthirsty, soulless monster. Tears stream thick down her face, and she cries out Neji's name, but the only response is a ferocious and empty smile. The girl's hesitation lasts for only a single second, because her love for Naruto and her will to live scream much louder in her chest. She activates her Byakugan with fury, and she jumps in front of her cousin's murderous attack, and she clashes her soft fists with a monumental explosion of chakra. The collision of energy cracks the entire floor from end to end and throws the main enemy away with the pure brute force of the shockwave. The direct combat between the two warriors is a macabre dance, and you can't look away even for a second from this family tragedy. Neji fights without any moral limits, and he uses the deadly techniques that the main clan hid from the entire world for generations out of fear. He pressures his beloved cousin to the limit of physical despair, and she realizes that ordinary strength will never stop this uncontrollable and fast aberration. She needs to make a terrible decision in the middle of the fight, and she knows that the price of this hidden power will cost her own future vitality. You catch your breath deep inside, because the worst nightmare of the Princess of the White Eyes just came to real and deadly life right on your screen. Hinata closes her tired eyes, and she begins to invoke a very dense and golden chakra that she kept secret from everyone until today. The energy boils the air of the entire room, and Naruto begs crying for her to stop immediately. Because he feels the deadly cost of this forbidden technique, Neji prepares an indefensible final blow, and he advances like a corrupted lightning bolt, ready to pierce the vulnerable chest of the girl he once protected. The villain's deadly fist comes within mere millimeters of her throbbing heart, and the screen goes black exactly at this absolute millisecond of pure terror. The deafening impact shakes the entire crystal castle, and the dust hides the result of the fatal blow. You expect to see the tragic sacrifice of the heroine, but the blinding glow cuts through the thick smoke like a blade of pure light. Neji's macabre fist stopped exactly 1 centimeter from her chest, and he is shaking uncontrollably. Hinata's golden aura formed a tangible shield of vital energy and repelled the malice with an absolute force. This warm light is no ordinary chakra, and Toneri takes a step back with a face of pure shock. You discover that the princess inherited Hamura's untouchable will, and she converted her love for Naruto into an impenetrable defense. She takes a very deep breath, and the divine glow wraps around her bruised arms and heals her wounds at a frantic pace. The air of the moon screams in anger, because the purity of that technique threatens to destroy the dark mind control spell. Naruto tries to get up from the broken floor, but his chakra points were sealed by the previous blow of his old friend. He watches the fight desperately, and he begs Kurama to heal his internal wounds quickly. You feel the agony of the protagonist, because he sees the woman of his life facing the ghost of the past alone. The fox sends his own red chakra into his veins, but Toneri's dark poison blocks the divine healing. Hinata does not back down, and she advances against Neji with a totally new and majestic combat stance. Her gentle fists carry the golden light and collide with the cousin's purple energy in a colossal explosion. She doesn't want to hurt his cold body, because her true intention is to purify the soul imprisoned inside. Every accurate blow she lands makes the corrupted mark on the dead hero's forehead blink in a very unstable way. Toneri realizes the real danger, and he makes a forbidden hand seal that forces the puppet to the extreme limit. Neji lets out a guttural scream, and his purple aura darkens until it becomes a black and terrifying cloak of pure hatred. He abandons the elegance of the main family, and he attacks Hinata with animalistic and purely murderous movements. You widen your eyes, because the proud genius turned into an irrational monster focused only on tearing his own cousin's flesh. The brutal strikes pierce through the light defense and hit Hinata's tired arms with a devastating force. She spits blood on the stained floor and she stumbles backward, but she refuses to fall and give up on the rescue. She looks into Neji's dead eyes, and she whispers old memories of their childhood to try to wake up his forgotten consciousness. Her compassion is a sharp weapon, but the puppet responds only with a relentless kick that breaks her ribs. Naruto finally manages to move his right arm, and he tears open his own chest to force the trapped chakra to escape. The blonde blood spatters into the air, and the orange energy explodes around him and breaks the enemy's invisible needles. He leaps in front of Hinata, and he grabs Neji's black fist with his own bare and tremendous hands. You vibrate with the scene, because the two greatest heroes of the war are finally standing together against the same tragedy. But Neji does not back down, and he channels a sickening amount of moon chakra directly into his own core. The air freezes instantly around them, and a dark rotation dome begins to swallow the entire main hall. This macabre variation of the absolute defense was not made to protect, and it exists only to shred everything it touches. Naruto embraces Hinata, and he creates a fox cloak to withstand the brutal impact of that storm of black blades. The sound of breaking metal fills the room, and Naruto's chakra tails begin to be torn apart one by one. Toneri laughs uncontrollably in the back of the room, and he decrees the end of the sun and moon lineage with great pleasure. You realize that Neji's dark strength surpassed any natural logic, because he is using the vital energy of the planet itself. Hinata tries to transfer the remnant of the golden light to her beloved, but the deadly cold paralyses her trembling hands. Naruto understands that passive defense will kill them both, and he makes the most painful decision of his entire life. He lowers his head, and he asks forgiveness from the spirit of the fallen hero, and he prepares a Rasengan infused with deadly fury. The sphere of pure energy spins frantically in his hand and destroys the air around it, and threatens to explode the entire castle. You feel the weight of the hero's tears falling to the floor, because he knows he will need to kill Neji for the second time. The Uzumaki advances with the deadly technique, and he breaks through the dark rotation with a deafening cry of pure agony. The Rasengan goes towards the puppet's heart, but Neji's eyes undergo a grotesque mutation at that exact instant. The veins on his face explode into pure black blood, and the purple iris transforms into a cosmic flower of indescribable power. The gravity field suddenly inverts, and you freeze with fear seeing what the final awakening of the cursed eye did to Naruto's body. Gravity crushes the stone floor, and Naruto is thrown to the ceiling with an absurd and violent force. The deadly Rasengan misses the target by millimeters and explodes against the ceiling structure and makes everything collapse into pieces. Neji floats in the center of the chaos with the Dark Tenseigan shining intensely in his modified eyes filled with hatred. You see the blonde hero coughing up a lot of blood while trying to stay on his feet against the crushing pressure of the environment. This mutation of the divine eye distorts space itself around it and creates an invisible barrier of total repulsion. Toneri watches the spectacle with a sadistic smile, and he orders the puppet to show the true power of the gods. Neji raises both open hands, and he invokes dozens of black spheres that float like satellites of death. You notice the despair in Hinata's eyes, because she knows that destructive technique that decimated armies in the past. Naruto falls to the floor on his knees, and he feels that Kurama's chakra is being sucked by the enemy's gravitational field. His every breath becomes a heavy burden, and his muscles scream because of the extreme exhaustion. But he looks back, and he sees Hinata trying to get up even with her ribs broken and bleeding heavily. The orange ninja's pride ignites a flame of pure fury, and he refuses to accept defeat in that cursed sanctuary. The Uzumaki roars with all the strength of his lungs, and he breaks the invisible chains of gravity with pure brute power. He activates the most dangerous transformation of the six-path Sage mode, and he fuses the energy with the Fox Cloak. An armor of golden and orange chakra wraps around his body and stabilizes the crushing pressure of the Dark Tenseigan. You feel the weight of this epic confrontation, because both warriors now possess the level of relentless deities. Neji points his cold fingers in the direction of the protagonist, and he fires the black spheres at a frightening speed. The projectiles cut through the air and destroy the temple walls, and create deep craters with every impact. Naruto dodges the attacks using divine reflexes, and he advances like a golden lightning bolt and leaves a trail of smoke. He tries to land a direct punch on his cousin's face, but the invisible repulsion barrier stops the strike in midair. The collision of the two powers generates a monumental shockwave that throws Hinata against the rubble of the hall. The energies repel each other with violence, and the roof of the castle cracks completely and shows the dark sky of the moon. Neji takes advantage of the opening, and he channels the black chakra of the Tenseigan directly into the tips of his thin fingers. He executes the 64 palms with a speed that surpasses the limits of human vision and ordinary ninja. Naruto receives the devastating sequence in his chest, and he feels his main vital points explode one by one. The Fox Cloak begins to flicker and fade in a worrying way, and the hero loses consciousness for a few seconds. He collapses onto the bloody floor, and the chakra armor completely disappears and leaves him totally vulnerable. Toneri walks calmly to the blonde's body, and he raises his foot to crush the head of the world's savior. Hinata watches the horror in slow motion, and desperation awakens an ancestral force dormant in the depths of her soul. She crawls across the broken floor, and she holds the crystal amulet she had been carrying since the start of the space mission. The object reacts to Hamura's golden chakra, and it begins to emanate a pulsation of extremely pure and warm energy. She channels everything that remains of her life into this glow, and she prepares to take her last breath for love. The glow of the pendant temporarily blinds Toneri, and the villain steps back, cursing the interference of that cursed lineage. Hinata positions herself between the fallen Naruto and the possessed Neji, and she opens her arms like a definitive human shield. The Dark Tenseigan of the dead genius focuses on her figure, and it begins to charge a final sphere of mass destruction. You hold your breath with the peak of the drama, because death seems the only possible destiny for the Heiress. Neji advances with the sphere of death directed at his cousin's forehead, and the strong wind cuts her face with cruelty. Naruto tries to stretch out his hand on the floor, but his fingers don't respond, and tears of helplessness run down his face. The fatal attack is mere centimeters away from obliterating Hinata's life definitively and cruelly. But an inexplicable phenomenon happens in the last absolute millisecond, and you freeze seeing the shocking reaction on the villain's face. The sphere of death stops abruptly in midair, and Neji's face begins to crack like old and worn porcelain. The golden glow of Hinata's amulet did not attack his body, but penetrated straight into the mind trapped by the spell. A tear of blood runs from the genius's left eye, and you realize that his soul awakened from the trance. The will of the caged bird broke the chains of Toneri's mind control with an absurd spiritual force. Toneri realizes the betrayal of his own vessel, and he tries to detonate the chakra of the Dark Tenseigan remotely. He makes the explosion seal to blow up Neji's body and obliterate the entire castle along with the heroes. But the Hyuga genius uses his last genius reflex, and he grabs the destructive sphere with both hands. He channels all the deadly energy into his own chest to contain the explosion and save his cousin. Neji's body glows with a blinding intensity, and he takes a mortal leap in the direction of the startled Toneri. He uses the rest of the divine chakra to trap the villain in an iron hug that prevents any kind of escape. You watch open-mouthed as the heroic genius truly smiles for the first time since he returned from death. He looks back over his shoulder, and he says goodbye to Hinata with a very serene nod. The internal explosion happens with a muffled sound, and the Dark Tenseigan disintegrates into a million pieces of light. Toneri is thrown against the sanctuary wall totally defeated, and without any energy to continue that war. Neji's body falls slowly to the stone floor, and his pale skin returns to a human color. The curse mark on his forehead disappears forever, and symbolizes his definitive and eternal freedom. Hinata runs desperately, and she holds her cousin in her arms while Naruto finally manages to get up from the broken floor. Neji breathes with great difficulty, and he places his trembling hand on the tearful face of his dear princess of the leaf. He whispers that he was finally able to choose his own destiny freely and protect those he truly loved. The hero closes his eyes slowly with a look of absolute peace, and his body turns into glowing dust. The chakra dust rises to the dark sky of the moon and cleanses the entire heavy atmosphere of that battlefield. Naruto hugs Hinata tightly, and they both weep together for the final departure of that beloved brother in arms. The threat on the moon is completely over, and peace returns to the ninja world with the certainty of duty fulfilled. The genius's sacrifice sealed the end of this secret story and saved the future of all humanity. If you enjoyed this epic journey and were moved by Neji's fate, leave your like and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell because there is another amazing video waiting for you here on the channel with theories that will blow your mind. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and we will see each other in the next story. Catch you later.